This is Modern Mindset, the show that picks the brains of the world's leading minds to help you unlock yours. I'm your host, Adam Cox, and joining me today we have Frances Gillies, who is the CEO and a clinician at the British Psychotherapy Foundation. You've done some research to coincide with World Mental Health Day. What did the research reveal?
Hi, Adam. So what we found is that only 30% of our respondents talked about being happy with their mental health state, which is quite a low number. We also found that 50% of the people said that they would like to try psychotherapy, but quite a lot of them talked about not knowing how to access psychotherapy, not really knowing and understanding what it is or how it might help them. And quite a few talked about not being able to afford it as well.
So it seems like there are certain perceptions and kind of barriers getting in the way. So there's almost a conflict. They want the therapy, but they're kind of unsure about what it is and if they can afford it and what it entails. What for the layperson listening, what's the best way to kind of explain what psychotherapy is?
I think probably the easiest way to explain it is that it's an opportunity to have a very distinct kind of relationship, and it's a kind of relationship that doesn't really happen in one's normal everyday relationships, and that relationship is with a qualified and professional therapist, and it's private and confidential, and it's a chance for you to talk to somebody in this very private way and be listened to in a very particular way, so that then it gives you an opportunity to really think about yourself and uncover things about yourself, uncover things that maybe in normal relationships you keep hidden from other people, for example, or that you just need to take some time to try and understand. And I think what's really important about this relationship is that, you know, when we get down or depressed or anxious in normal life and we're on our own with it, we quite often end up thinking we have to be on our own with things. And the more that you try and keep things in, the more complicated they can get and the more down we can get. And so to be able to find a space where someone can really help you to talk and to and for them to really listen to you in this certain way is a very moving and hopefully quite often life-changing experience.
I remember going back a long time, delivering papers, and there was the occasional headline about, let's say, high-profile people dealing with mental health issues. And back then, in the kind of late 80s, early 90s, it was kind of the narrative was people are mental, and it was a very kind of judgmental approach to mental health kind of issues. Do you think there is still a stigma on mental health issues, or do you think it has kind of moved on and people are a bit more open to discussing and seeking help for the mental health?
I mean, I think it's both of those things. I think, yes, recently people are getting much more aware of the fact that you can ask for help and that you can talk about these things, but there is still a stigma. So, I think, yes, it's better than it has been in the past. And I think it depends on social groups, as you mentioned before, sort of some people are much more used to it and other people really are horrified by the idea of, having to seek help. And we've obviously got that in this country, certainly, that old sort of idea that we should hold everything in and not talk about our problems. But I think we're on the verge now where people, and as our research showed, 50% of our respondents were saying, yes, they would love to have the chance to have some psychotherapy. So I think now we're really knowing that there is a demand for it out there, but at the moment we've got a supply problem.
And that supply problem is that there's not enough therapists out there, or there is enough therapists, but people don't know how to access the therapists?
I think there are more and more therapists, and we're doing our best to train as many highly trained, qualified psychotherapists as possible. But I think that it's very difficult to know how to access them. And mental health services in the NHS tend to be very overstretched and underfunded, as we all know. And I think people quite often find that they maybe don't get a choice of therapists when they go through their NHS services, and also that they don't get enough. So people end up needing to try and find a therapist for themselves, and that can seem quite intimidating, really.
And within the field of psychotherapy, you're going to have different niches, different kind of areas of specialization. If for someone just, let's say, feeling anxious about kind of at the moment or feeling a bit down, is there a particular type of psychotherapist they should be seeking, or is it just, find a therapist that you feel that you can get on with?
I mean, this is a really excellent and good question, and I think this overwhelms quite a lot of people saying, I don't know what kind of therapy I need. And actually, what's more important than anything is that you trust your psychotherapist. Model can come second, model of therapy can come second. And there's been quite a lot of outcome research done over the years that shows that the thing that really predicts good outcome in psychotherapy is the nature of the working relationship between the client and the therapist. That has to be the most important thing. There are some models of psychotherapy that maybe do better for some things than others, and so some of the cognitive behavioral therapies are excellent at short-term approaches to short-term anxieties or low mood. But on the whole, I think people need time, and they need to gain trust with their psychotherapist, and they need lots of people, we know as psychotherapists that lots of people come into therapy saying, I don't know why I'm here, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, I don't know what my difficulty is, but I just know that I'm unhappy, or life is difficult for me, or relationships are difficult for me. And that's the role of a good, well-trained psychotherapist, is to help the client to think for themselves what it is that their difficulty is, and uncover that slowly over time.
Totally makes sense. Obviously, we are going through a weird time in history. We've had the pandemic, we're still dealing with some, increasing cases. And then we've got, a doom and gloom kind of economy and cost of living crisis. What advice would you give to those people that might be struggling with their mental health right now?
Yeah, I think this is a really important question. And I think therapy can't cure social ills. So, the cost of living crisis is very real, and no psychotherapist can take that away. Having said that, I think having the opportunity to talk to somebody about how you respond to these crises. So, for example, the pandemic, I think, brought up all sorts of different worries and concerns for different people. And again, there's no one size fits all. But here at the British Psychotherapy Foundation, we started a supported key service, we called it, where we were offering key workers a certain amount of sessions of psychotherapy free. And actually, the things that the people who used our service were bringing were all sorts of different responses and anxieties and worries to the pandemic. So I would always say that life can be difficult, psychotherapy can't necessarily change that, but talking to somebody about how you feel about life and having someone listen to you in that very close and confidential and private way can really help. So talking is always the answer.
Perfect. And if someone's listening right now and they want to learn more about, let's say, the British Psychotherapy Foundation, where can they go for more information?
Just go to our website, so britishpsychotherapyfoundation.org.uk, and we have very good FAQs on our website and lots of other interesting bits to look at and about psychotherapy.
That is Frances Gillies there from the British Psychotherapy Foundation. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Very much, Adam. Absolute pleasure.
And to you.